Welcome back. In this module, we're going to start to talk about common navigation types as we explore the navigation design practice. First, a little bit more about why we take so much time determining our best practices in navigation. No user is identical. In the majority of conversations that I have with users one-on-one, they explain that they like to browse, or that they go directly to search, or that the only thing they look for is a keyword when they scan down all the pages. There's so many different motivations and behaviors when it comes to exploration on the web that it's imperative that we cater to all of them, or at least a few of the more common ones, to allow users to take their own path. Some users like to browse categories, jump to search. Specifically, they want bargains, or they're looking more for brand information. These are just some of the examples of how users navigate. So it behooves us to spend the time and determine who our users are and create navigation structures that cater to those behaviors. In navigation design, there are a number of common navigation structures. We're going to review those with you today. These common types of navigation elements are the most prominent ones. Let's start with an easy one that I'm sure you can all recognize: a global navigation. This provides access on every page to the majority of the entire website. In some way, shape, or form, global navigation, which is omnipresent everywhere, allows us to get to the most important information that we need as users. The next one is one we call local nav. This local navigation gives us access to things that are nearby what we're looking at. They typically appear on interior pages where we've already decided on a specific category or topic. Courtesy nav are items provided as convenience. They're not necessarily in a very prominent area, but they're mostly expected in those places. And more about that in the next slide. Contextual nav are best described as links within a page. Think of them as ways to expand on a specific topic, where we might not have as much space in the viewport to give a very long description about something. A contextual navigation would allow the user to move to another page to read a little bit more. Also, anything that provides context to the discussion happening or the topic on page would be considered a contextual navigation link. And last but not least, on our most common types of navigation elements are supplementary nav. And these are elements on a page that allow us to jump from where we are to other areas with related content. Let's take a visual example of this so that we can all understand it a little bit better. Here we see two layouts from the same website. On the left is the desktop version, and on the right is the mobile version. First and foremost is the global navigation, where we provide access to the entire site from one clear area. Now, this is the way we describe global navigation, but it doesn't include every single link that you could possibly find on the site. Just the bigger categories of information and the most prominent places that users will be looking for. It's typically found at the top of the page, horizontally displayed across a desktop site, or within what we call a hamburger icon on a mobile website. The hamburger icon is those three lines, and we call it a hamburger icon because of the resemblance to a hamburger with the bun and one patty. The next navigation element is the local nav, access to what's nearby. And in these examples, we see actually a visual indication of that. And in this example, we see a visual local nav that includes illustration as well as text. Here, it's providing access to what's nearby because it's providing access to other categories within the products section. Where right now we're looking at the watch, it provides other access to related products. The next element of navigation is the courtesy nav. In this example, we're showing a courtesy nav as links in the footer. Expectations of users are that there will be common things that they will find in the courtesy nav areas. In this example, the footer contains information about the company, news, events, ways to track your order, those kinds of things. That type of content is expected in places like the footer. Then there's also courtesy nav that we use that sits above the global navigation. If you've ever been on a transactional website where you'll see a grouping up in the top right of the page that includes a login, a cart, contact information, possibly a way to save for later or favorite items, that's another more common place where you're going to find the courtesy nav. The other element that we had on our list was contextual navigation. So these are links within a page that provide context. And in this example, you'll see that there is a link just below the description of the watch. And finally, on this page, we have an example of supplementary navigation. Whereas this content or this navigation doesn't provide context to the experience, it allows users to visit related content without having to go back to the global navigation or the local navigation and choose an element from there. Now, we just talked about the top 5 elements of navigation, and I'm sure about 95% of the time that will be all that you'll need. There are a few other ones that we see more prominently. Persistent nav is something that you've probably experienced before, where throughout the site there is a navigation element that sticks to the screen somehow, either to the side, the bottom, or the top. More prominently, our sticky nav is the header reconfigured and locked to the top of the viewport screen. You've also probably seen sticky navigation anchored to the bottom right or the bottom left of a site that allows you to access social media links or a quick interaction to a chat. And the final navigation element that we see more prominently are remote navigations. When users give up, they need a backup plan. Now, of course, when most users give up, they turn to search. Search doesn't necessarily fall into what we would call a remote navigation, but it is definitely an important part of our experience. Search becomes important when navigation fails. Spending more time on navigation and not relying on search is still a better practice as we approach any complex solutions. There are 2 types of remote navigation. One is an index, an alphabetical list of topics and pages. Imagine it like an index to a book, a quick way of understanding where you'll find the information on the topic that you seek out. This is no different on a website. If there's a complex website with a lot of information, sometimes an index or a glossary is quite common. And the other element of remote navigation is the sitemap. Sitemaps have been around for quite a while, and they include every element of the site architecture in one place. Still to this day, the majority of websites include a sitemap, mostly because of Google. Search engines, including Google, crawl your website, and the best place to find all of the website links is on the sitemap. Most analytics and SEO experts recommend creating a sitemap and also submitting it to Google when your website's ready to be crawled. So we've just covered the most common elements of navigation. We'll see you in the next module.